Happy Holy Hump Day on this September 22nd, everyone. I'm Pastor Robert. Welcome to this midweek time where I can share some spiritual thoughts and reflections with you. And we have a special guest with us today who goes by the name of Autumn, also known as Fall. And so we do welcome this new season of fall. And I just want to reflect today on what Autumn might want to say to us in our spiritual lives. How can this season of autumn help us to grow in our faith? And I think Autumn would tell us these 5 things, and in no particular order. And the first thing is, to me, it's my favorite thing about fall are the beautiful colors of this season. And so I am reminded of the beautiful colors of God's creation, especially during this season of fall. So please make sure you take time to enjoy this season as the leaves change, and hopefully we will have some beautiful leaves this year. The other thing that I think that Autumn would tell us is change is part of life, and change can be a good thing. And sometimes we resist change. Well, a lot of times we resist change. But I think Autumn is here to remind us that, with the changing seasons, some cooler temperatures, that change isn't always that bad. And, as we change, we can grow. And so let's take this new season as an opportunity for us to change in our perspectives and to be open to new perspectives and to grow. And the third thing I think that our special guest Autumn would say to us here is that, it's a season that reminds us of Thanksgiving coming up. And so I think that it's a very good time for us to remember our many blessings that God has given us. And so this is a season, as we approach Thanksgiving, to be aware of God's many mercies and blessings. And then the fourth thing that I think that Autumn would share with us today is that, as the shorter days start happening more and more, and, night comes more quickly, it's good for us to remember to share God's light with others and with ourselves, and to be able to cherish the light even more. So I think that's maybe something else Autumn would tell us. And then the fifth thing is that just like the leaves fall from the trees, and oftentimes so gently onto the ground, that's a great symbol of how we can allow the anxieties and fears, uncertainties that we might have just to fall gently to the ground. And for this, I want to conclude by sharing this story. This is from Allison Apsby's book called The Pathway to Serendipity. And Allison shares these words. It's a powerful image of allowing God to take our anxieties and our restlessness and to transform that into peace, just like the leaves are falling from the trees to the ground. So she writes how she was going through a particularly stressful time in her life, and she was constantly going to visit her mother who had been ill, and she was feeling guilty that she wasn't spending enough time with her family. And she was also facing the constant demands in her job as a principal of a school. So one fall day, she pulled into her school parking lot to begin her day of work, and her heart was heavy with the stress of life. And her thirst for life had been depleted. But as she got out of her car and began walking across the parking lot, she couldn't help but notice the bright orange and yellow leaves that were falling from the trees all around her. She imagined how each of those beautiful colors represented so many heavy emotions swirling in her mind. They represented feelings of love and gratitude, but also feelings of longing, guilt, and inadequacy. She was empty. And as she carefully noticed all of those beautiful leaves falling to the ground, she was reminded that it was time to let all of her conflicting emotions fall to the ground as well. Just let them fall. As she got closer to the school entrance, she noticed that her perspective began to change. She felt a bounce to her step, and she was surprised when a smile replaced the worried look on her face. She writes that as she opened the door of her school, she was emotionally ready to be the best principal she could possibly be for her students and for her staff that day. And so these are 5 of the things that I think if Autumn was here as our guest today to share with us, those would be the 5 things. The first one again is remember the beauty of God's creation. This is a great season to remember that. The second one is remember that change is part of life and it actually can be a good thing. The third thing is this is a season that reminds us of God's many blessings in our lives and to be thankful. And the fourth thing is as we have shorter days to remember to share God's light with others and with ourselves. And then that last point that we just went over, just like the leaves fall from the trees, God invites us to allow our worries and our anxieties to fall gently to the ground and receive the peace that God is offering us. So thank you, Autumn, for sharing these 5 important ways to embrace this new season of fall. I do invite you to join us for worship this Sunday. Speaking of a guest person, we will have Bishop Gregory Palmer, the bishop of our West Ohio Conference. He will be sharing a recorded video sermon with us. He is a powerful preacher, and I know he was here in person before I had arrived here to the church. I don't know, a year or 2 before maybe I arrived here. So it's probably been 7, 8 years ago when Bishop Palmer was here to preach on a Sunday morning. But we are going to be blessed to have a recorded sermon from him that was actually preached this past Sunday as part of a hosting that we had for the Foothills District for the celebration of the installation of our new district superintendent, Reverend Mark Chow. Bishop Palmer was here in our sanctuary this past Sunday, so we're going to take that sermon and we're going to hear from him this Sunday morning for worship. So join us at 10:30 for our either our 9 o'clock service in the chapel or 10:30 service in the sanctuary, and you can also watch the service live stream on our church's YouTube channel, which begins at 10:25 a.m. For the 10:30 service. So happy beginning of the fall season.